Imagine waking up one morning to find your entire town caught in a dance they couldn't stop. No, this isn't the plot of a horror novel. It's a real historical event. In 1518, hundreds of people in Strasbourg began to dance uncontrollably, and some danced until they died. Why did this happen? The year was 1518. Strasbourg, a bustling town in what is now modern-day France, was thriving. But then, something bizarre occurred. In July of that year, a woman named Frau Trophäa stepped into the street and began to dance. And she didn't stop. Within a week, over 30 people had joined her, all dancing against their will. This was no celebration. It was a crisis. People danced until they collapsed, and some even died. But here's why this matters. The dancing plague of 1518 challenges everything we think we know about mass hysteria and psychological phenomena. What could cause such a peculiar outbreak? As the days turned into weeks, the number of dancers swelled. By August, dozens had turned into hundreds. The local authorities, baffled and desperate, consulted physicians. Their diagnosis? Overheated blood. Their solution? More dancing. A stage was erected, and musicians were hired to keep the afflicted moving. If you're thinking that sounds counterproductive, you're not alone. This ill-fated remedy only seemed to fuel the frenzy, turning what started as a small ripple into a tidal wave of inexplicable behavior. But here's the kicker. These dances weren't filled with joy. Witnesses reported expressions of agony, as if the dancers were trapped in a nightmare from which they couldn't wake. Historical records are sparse but telling. Chronicles from the time describe the dancers as possessed, moving with a terrifying vigor, often until the point of collapse. One account even mentions a dancer collapsing in exhaustion, only to rise and continue dancing minutes later. An eerie, unstoppable force. But what adds credibility to this puzzling event is its documentation in the Aufzeichnungen of the city, a municipal record that detailed the bizarre happenings. Was it a curse, a divine punishment, or something else entirely? Even in an era known for its superstition, the dancing plague stood out as an anomaly. Back then, doctors attributed this to hot blood and even prescribed a cure of continual motion. But modern scientists propose some more grounded theories. One idea is ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic mold that grows on damp rye bread. This toxin can cause vivid hallucinations, muscle spasms, and irrational behavior. But here's where it gets weird. Such poisonings usually caused convulsions, not rhythmic dancing. So, while plausible, ergot poisoning doesn't fully explain the organized chaos of the dancing plague. Was something else at play? Another theory points to mass psychogenic illness, a form of mass hysteria triggered by stress and fear. The early 1500s were times of severe hardship, with famines and diseases ravaging Europe. It could have been a collective psychological response to such overwhelming stress. But then there's the twist. Why dancing? Typically, mass hysteria doesn't manifest in such rhythmic ways. This leaves us questioning, could an entire community's subconscious resolve to dance through their plight? Culturally, festivals and dances were integral to medieval life. Some historians suggest that the dancing plague was a ritual gone awry, a cultural expression that spiraled out of control. The Feast of St. Vitus, celebrated at the time, was believed to protect against diseases like epilepsy. Could the townspeople have been seeking divine intervention, only to be caught in a whirlwind of their own making? This angle adds a fascinating layer to the mystery, blending belief with behavioral science. But here's where it gets really strange. The dancing plague wasn't a one-off event. There were similar outbreaks elsewhere in Europe, though none on the same scale. Reports from 1374 mention a similar phenomenon in Aachen, Germany, where people danced for days, driven by an unseen force. This raises a chilling question. Was the dancing plague of 1518 simply a misunderstood part of a larger, more sinister pattern? If so, what could connect these seemingly isolated events across centuries? So, where does that leave us? Theories abound, but none provide a conclusive answer. Was it ergot poisoning, a psychological phenomenon, or a cultural expression gone wrong? Or could it have been a divine warning, as some then believed? Modern science might lean towards psychological explanations, but the lack of concrete evidence keeps the mystery alive. Each theory adds a piece to the puzzle, but the full picture remains elusive. The dancing plague of 1518 remains an enigma, a historical footnote that refuses to be neatly categorized. As we piece together the fragments of past events, we're reminded of the complexities of human behavior and the mysteries of our mind. What would you do if you couldn't stop dancing, moving to a tune only you could hear? Perhaps the answers lie not in history books, but in the depths of our psyche. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and remember to subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most intriguing mysteries.